Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case today with another very important video looking back at a statement point comment by Robyn Smith, the aunt to Noah Presgrove, in which there is a certain line, very important, which has been forgotten about over time. And once again, WarLike Wrath is here to bring it back into discussion amongst other things too. Even with a little demonstration, which you may or may not be able to see in the background over there. Not quite to scale, of course, but it's for that visual learning to try and put into context what Robyn is really referring to. And I'm going to show you the screenshot as well so you see it from the horse's mouth. But it's as if there is evidence to support that during Noah's death, other people were about. And if that's really the case, it links more towards the idea of murder, and if not that, it's more likely to be a form of foul play then. And it's the order of how these comments came about by Robyn Smith, because she didn't always believe it to be a certain cause of death. Things did change drastically, but the order of how it occurred in may surprise you. So just stick around for today's video, don't go anywhere, so you get that full understanding and context. And for those watching during this live premiere, welcome. Be sure to share your thoughts, reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. Let me know what you think. And if you want to leave any additional comments, questions and whatnot, be sure to drop them down below in the comment section and I'll try and respond back to them if possible. I want to say first and foremost, big shout out to Tim Daniel. Hopefully they see this, and if not, rewind the video. Shout out to Tim Daniel for the support last night on the channel. Very positive to see. If anyone wants to catch up on recent videos of mine, if you've missed out on them, including last night's video, which was very, very important and very deep, you'll be able to find the link to it top right where the eye symbol is. Click there. You'll see the full playlist as well to all the videos I've done on the case and the loose ones, including last night's video. And if you do want to support this channel, down below in the comment section, you'll find a pinned message at the top with a link to my PayPal. And shout out to those that have done so in the background with time. That's also positive to see. With that being said, the order of how we'll do things today is I'll show you the screenshot of Robyn's comment, give a bit of context behind it, read it, analyze it, break it down a little, and then give a certain scenario and then do the demonstration. Let's begin. This particular comment, what you see on screen, is from Facebook as part of a comment thread response. Robyn replying back to Brooke Bounds-Carter and says, "You're right, Brooke. I don't believe that this was a vicious murder. To think that any of Noah Presgrove's friends would do this is unimaginable. What I do not appreciate is the lack of cooperation and the lying that has been going on. Regardless of what happened, it makes people seem suspicious, as if they know the whole story and are trying to cover it up. Evidence shows that Noah Presgrove was not alone when this happened, and yet no one will tell us what exactly happened." And part of Brooke's response, okay, so we definitely agree on it not being a murder. So if there is evidence that he wasn't alone, maybe there was another kid there from the party, or maybe whatever it says. And it's a bit annoying, this, because it's cropped. It doesn't show the full conversation, the full context, or what Brooke was getting at. I don't know where this would be on Facebook, how you would find it, if it still exists out there, or it was a deleted post, comment thread. Who knows? It's not always easy to retrieve stuff. So we're not going to know the full conversation of what's going on here, but at least Robyn's point of view, with no time date given, right, no true time stamp, could be at any time. I could be wrong, but linking one thing with another, which could be out of context, if you want to debunk it, feel free, but no one did the last time I said it. I saw a comment by Brooke Bounds-Carter saying possibly in 2024, February, or maybe March or April, when Robyn Smith left this particular comment. In regard, though, to the previous comment by Robyn Smith saying it's cold-blooded murder, it's vicious murder, people know what's going on, that was said in 2023, from what I can remember. Big contrast, right? Early on, Robyn Smith believes it's downright murder, and then with time, changes to it's not murder. Noah's friends couldn't do anything like that. It's not possible. In terms of that order of thinking, I don't know, you could be feeling, would you be thinking the worst at the start and then you'd show reasoning later on? Or would it be the other way around? I guess it depends. It also depends what order, how things follow in a case and what's found and what's retrieved along the way, whether something's found which suggests murder or not, something found which suggests a partygoer could know or be responsible for something, and then your mindset does change with time. So I know people out there could think, oh, has Robyn Smith joined the dark side by being in agreement with Brooke Bounce-Carter? But you don't get that, do you? That's why it's one-sided once again. But if you're a member of the general public, and if you do agree with Brooke Bounce-Carter, or you do agree with someone on the dark side, then you're accused of joining the dark side, and then people turn on you from the light side. Oh, but if you're one of Noah Presgrove's friends or Noah's victim's family that may agree on a point or an area, or even down to the cause of death, like Robyn does here, oh, that's accepted, that's okay. Robyn's not joining the dark side. Robyn is showing understanding and changing her mind with time. That's fine, that's okay. So why should one person get a free pass, but then other people don't get a free pass? Once again, I'm seeing it, one-sided behaviour mentality. Maybe it's not happening right now, but I can just sense it, I can just predict it. The attitude of people and what they would come out with, defending one but not the other. No balance whatsoever. No reasoning ability whatsoever. But ultimately, what we do need to understand here is two components, what Robyn is getting at, and then the suggestion by Brooke Bounce-Carter. So we agree on it not being a murder, but if there is evidence that Noah was with someone at the time of his death, maybe there was another kid from the party. What? An unknown person, a stranger? Someone that came on down because the invite was public online, so anyone could actually come on down, even if you're not a friend, more so a stranger, possibly. But Robyn, evidence shows Noah was not alone when this happened. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section in regard to what you think. I'm going to try and break it down right now. To be honest with you, it probably is leaning more towards one way based off the structure of the sentences, the language and the wording, but I will give you an alternative way of looking at it, just so we don't go off the deep end too far and then it turns out it wasn't actually meant that way, because people's language and wording in this case can mean completely other different things. That's how you may interpret it yourself. So evidence of what? Evidence in regard to people and people who are not willing to talk, and the family or certain family members in the dark. Does that still apply till this day? Supposedly, yes, but to refer back to the people as evidence, as witnesses of when it happened, the alternative way of looking at it could mean when it happened in regard to the beginning leading up to Noah's death, witnesses present, such as the shower situation, the bedroom debacle when it came to sleeping in one of the girls' bedrooms. And if not that, a final argument with Jack Newton, depending what time that happened. And I'll tell you something, that final argument with Jack Newton and Noah Presgrove, that's got forgotten about with time, doesn't seem to be acknowledged as much now. So what's the deal with that? Did it actually happen? How bad was it? Compare the Saturday past midnight argument where it needed to be broken up from what Justin Roy had said, and Caden Pressey was involved, and Caden says himself, well, he didn't acknowledge anything to do with that. All over the place, dysfunctional of course, but an argument there and then an argument later, same theme, same topics, different stuff, who knows? Bit of miscellaneous event, to be honest with you, it's just faded away. And to be honest, what I would say is the events closest to Noah's death, or at least when he walked away, are most important, because if there is a bad taste left in people's mouths and then next thing you know the person ends up dead, you could be trying to look for possible links, maybe. Some tension here, an argument there, final word said on a negative undertone. Could that follow on, physically, verbally, or at least should be interpreted that way? So you start throwing up these like little events and sub-questions along the way, because it just is the case. But the event of Noah Presgrove walking away, which the time without any hard evidence has been stated, 3:30, and Jack Newton mentioning it too, 3:30, Monday, September 4, 2023, when Noah walked away simply to cool off. and from what Jack had said, heading east. But in terms of who was a witness to that, it was interpreted that Jack Newton was the witness. But if I be honest with you, did Jack say that himself? Or is it just what the community believed or listened to one person, it spread like wildfire, and then it just turned into a fact? I don't know at this point. I'm going to be honest with you. That's why I'm careful with my wording when I do refer to Jack Newton. But in that Parts in True Crime interview, Jack Newton mentioning Logan Jernigan was the last person to witness Noah Presgrove last seen and when walking away heading east towards the highway. Not to say he went onto the highway, but it was in that direction. He could have stopped beforehand, but he would have faded out into dark anyway. With Noah distancing himself, isolating himself and being drunk makes him a vulnerable person prone to anything. Any form of physicality, approaching a party goer or a stranger, you never know. And then the dangers ahead, the hazardous railroad crossing, and even the highway. You're on foot walking, it's not exactly ideal practical. You're drunk as well, reflex, timing, sensories, slow down, impacted negatively, makes you weaker at times, makes you a bit more vulnerable. Factors like that. So the act of Noah walking away, Logan being the last person to see Noah walking off, would that be considered what Robyn is getting at? Evidence to say that Noah wasn't alone when it happened? It depends what when it happened actually means. The main and maybe more so obvious way of looking at it is in regard to it being the death of Noah, the timing of it. When Noah Presgrove died, there is evidence to say he wasn't alone. People or someone was present when Noah died, or whilst he was dying, whether that be murder, accidental, but it would come into play, foul play based on that. The question is, have we actually seen the evidence to say that Noah wasn't alone? There was like people with him or someone. I don't know personally. I mean, let's just base it off this. That alternative theory, what we've come up with or what others have come up with suggested with time, and what Zachary Wright supposedly said as his opinion, even though we didn't hear it directly from him. We just saw what Jack had to say on behalf of being told from Zachary Wright that opinion. Wouldn't say it's good enough, but just work with what we've got. Noah could have been in the back of a truck, pickup truck. It was moving along. Noah stood up, a bit uneasy, wobbled, and then ended up falling out. Impact made with the ground and then bouncing along so far and then eventually stopping at the side of the hard shoulder and the white line. And that's causing all the injuries. Some people say it wouldn't cause all those injuries, and then other people, including some experts and some who've got a bit of an attitude issue, as we've seen, and continuously, say it is possible. Okay. I've done little demonstrations of that to try and work out and make sense of it, and to an extent, I think it's gone down somewhat well, and we can do another demonstration today in regard to the visual understanding of the death of Noah and the evidence behind it, of witnesses, the importance of that. Because at least to my knowledge publicly, on the surface level, I've not seen that evidence what Robyn Smith is referring to. But if that particular comment was at some point in 2024, how does that differ from then till now? What's changed? Robyn has been active here and there a little bit in the live chat on my videos, but could that be brought up now? Could that be answered? Possibly. If anyone else knows any answers or wants to reach out in some way, feel free to do so. Because wherever there is actual evidence, if it's not been seen yet or shared much, well, it's unfortunate, it's important, it needs to be looked at. Because too much in this case, we've heard a lot of words, even from witnesses, which should be considered a good thing, but it's not quite good enough. And with inconsistencies along the way, that just doesn't help either. I mean, if you had an exception where you had Mr. or Mrs. Consistent, in which anything and everything that they say is 100% consistent and true, you could have trust and belief in them. It's not like that in this case, is it? So you need hard evidence by itself or hard evidence and a witness statement for it to complement one another. Do we quite have that in regard to what Robyn is getting at? Not at this moment in time. Hopefully there's a bit of a catalyst, a push behind this with the awareness as well. So if anyone wants to early share this video or thumbs up to get it out there so more people can see it, that'd be appreciated, because it's just kind of gone under the radar, this particular comment. And obviously just in general, it's important to acknowledge how Robyn at one point believed it to be cold-blooded murder, or just murder in general. And then at a different point in time, believing it's not murder, but Noah's friends couldn't do that, even if they do act a bit suspicious, even if they don't cooperate properly. In defence, what we're seeing with the dark side, or parents of parents, family of family, they've said that, yeah, well, these girls, these people have cooperated perfectly with the police in the background. Based off what Noah Presgrove's family says, lack of cooperation, seems like it doesn't translate in that direction, which is unfortunate. And whilst, yes, you could say, well, it's a part of the case in the investigation, you've got to work with authorities and police, that's who you should be working with most. Surely there should be a few exceptions there to maybe communicate with the victim's family, because they should know one another, and if there's nothing dodgy, suspicious, or anything murder-related going on, there shouldn't be anything to hide. There should be a better level of cooperation. But let's not forget, this is not a first time. You look back, and I don't know if it was in 2022 or later, the Riley Strain case, I think it was in Nashville, a little bit of a party place town, where Riley Strain and his fraternity brothers, also known as friends, were hanging out, partying, going from bar to bar, drinking. And when it came to one of the last visits, when Riley Strain was inside, at some point he was ordered to leave, either because he was misbehaving, a bit too drunk, or had too much to drink, maybe. His fraternity brothers remained in the building. One followed Riley out, but then Riley was like, no, I'll go back home, or no, I'll go back to the hotel to sleep it off. I'll meet you all back there. So then Riley left. Fraternity brothers remained, carrying on drinking and partying. And there is CCTV footage which shows Riley walking along and stopping and starting and looking about, whatever that could mean. Going past a homeless encampment, or near to a river or so, and then eventually ending up dying, and then later being found in the water, but no water in the lungs or no sign of drowning. More so, Riley had died, passed away on ground level, and then later ended up in the water. And most clothing was removed as well. Bit odd. Has it been solved? Well, to my knowledge, no. But when that came about and the investigation opened up, when it came to Riley Strain's parents that had to come on down and cover some distance the following day, when it came to the fraternity brothers, the way they cooperated wasn't as good. It took them about 8 hours, if not longer, to actually report it to police about Riley Strain not present, as if they didn't care enough, or there wasn't enough priority or urgency. So it's a bit questionable there. And when it was finally called in, and then statements, interviews took place thereon then, whilst they cooperated with police to some extent when Riley Strain's parents were like in town or in the area, and actually, before the news of the death of Riley and his body being found, just seen as a missing person case short term, when Riley Strain's parents came on down, they were going from hospital to hospital just in case he ended up there. He got hurt, got hit, got damaged in some way by someone or maybe a vehicle. Parents obviously panicking, sad, didn't know what was going on. And when they finally got back, they saw Riley's friends, the fraternity brothers, on the way or coming back from a party which was going to take place around that time, that Riley's own friends were too busy partying, looking forward to that, completely neglecting what's happened to Riley. completely neglecting to even open up or reach out to the victim's family. That the victim's family had to beg the fraternity brothers for answers. And they got a bit of answers. And then after that, eventually body found. But the process of it, having to beg and more, it just seems unnecessary. But it just goes to show that yes, you can have friends, and yes, you might have big groups, but how close are they to you? But in a life or death situation, are they actually there for you? Are they actually there for the victim's family, or what? It can be full of a lot of hot air and a load of nothing at the end of it. So it's just to put into perspective that when you look at the Noah Presgrove case and you might think party goers covering for one another or keeping quiet, oh, it's really bad. There are other cases out there where things just as bad, if not worse, have occurred. A total lack of regard or care or consideration. Whereas, yeah, those fraternity brothers may not be linked whatsoever to the death in terms of how they reacted and responded. Really underwhelming and lacking. So if anyone wants to look back at some of my previous videos on my channel where I covered the Riley Strain case, feel free to do so. I think the most impressive part is, being honest, I didn't cover that case much at all. It was only a couple of videos for a couple of days or so. It's a miracle that I managed to remember the details. And the reason why I say that is because normally I cover one case at a time, and I could cover one case for a few years and then move on to the next. And that's why my memory tends to be a bit better. Well, I guess there might be some exceptions with some cases when they stand out quite big. As for the timing of it on the timestamps, I couldn't honestly tell you that because I just can't remember. But there was CCTV footage. I did do an analysis of it. See, that's in a more urban area where there's CCTV cameras. The Noah Presgrove case, a rural area with less surveillance, specifically the highway. But there'll be exceptions that in rural areas where there are properties, there's more likely to be more surveillance than in urban areas to an extent because of how vast and open it is and the different angles, entrance and exit ways and anything else in between. And if you're more alone or by yourself, you've got more to protect and look out for. And if you've got equipment as well, people could pass on by, steal stuff, break in, do damage. You'd need as many cameras as you want for protection. And that does or did apply to the party house in the Noah Presgrove case. It's just that the cameras weren't working inside and out, which is very unfortunate. And, you know, if other things are maintained at the house, how come the cameras weren't? There might have been high tech at some point top of the range, but why weren't they properly checked? Oh, because the people that actually lived out at the time, like the party girls, birthday girls, well, party girls more so, and the host, there's just not, because of their age at the time, they're just not going to be thinking or really be that bothered. But my question is, because I want to know, at the time of when supposedly Avery, Carter, maybe Logan and anyone else in between may have been threatened, attacked, damaged to property, stalked, whatever, such as at the party house they were living at one point, is that the main factor which caused the girls to move out and live elsewhere? And besides that, for a certain length of time whilst they were living there, and whilst there was supposed harassment and attacks in different ways, did it lead to any direct action being taken, as in new cameras being set up and operated properly, or not? See, with the Dylan Rounds case, Dylan Rounds, another rural area, no cameras whatsoever. Absolutely no cameras whatsoever, yet the case was solved. And there was only one or two witnesses as well. Really says a lot, doesn't it? If you want to learn about it, of course, you have to look at my playlist and go from there, because there's a lot to it. But rural area, the phone itself, the phone data played a big role in that and helped along the way. Okay? So you compare it to the Noah Presgrove case, more phones, more data, more rich, or you'd hope to think more rich in storytelling and being able to piece it out where people were and what was really going on. That could go a long way. Now, my question is, and I don't know if I'll do it as a poll in the live chat or if I'll do it as a poll on my channel page, but does anyone think that if Noah Presgrove had his phone with him when he walked away to cool off, would that have made any difference whatsoever? And I don't mean Noah Presgrove calling out for help using his phone. I just mean the phone data itself and the pings along the way. Would it tell a story of where he actually went and then where he ended up? Well, yes, we know where he ended up, which was along the highway. But would the phone ping at certain spots? Walking so far, stops, operates phone, ping. Walks a bit more, stops, operates it, pings. Like that? That with each timestamp you get an idea of when Noah Presgrove was walking and when he wasn't. So you could try and determine or work out how much mileage he actually did on foot by his own will and what he wanted to do. Of course, be complemented by any additional phone pings if Noah Presgrove was with someone or some people, which Robyn Smith seemed to suggest at the time, but there is evidence of that. But no one's willing to talk. Is it possible to know that evidence exists, that there are people present during Noah's death, but no one's willing to speak or reach out? But surely to know about evidence, more so to have evidence, you'd be in possession of it physically, or you've seen it on behalf of someone. And if you've seen that evidence and it's of such as phone data, then it should link back or be able to trace back to a specific person's phone, hence a specific person's name. They might not be willing to speak out a specific individual, but you've got a good idea of who they are. If they're not willing to speak out, but there is evidence that it links to them, then it links to this whole case and evidence for something, and then police have got hold of it. They should be able to just follow it up, pull the person aside and say, hey, we've got this evidence that says Noah wasn't alone during his death. Can you come along and come for questioning? Has any of that happened? No, not to our knowledge. So how is it possible for Robyn Smith to say that there is evidence that there was someone or some people present during Noah's death, but no one is speaking, as in we don't know who it actually is, but we do know that there is evidence? Now, what would that evidence be? A witness report? Well, it can't be because no one's spoken from what Robyn had said. It would have to be some kind of maybe phone ping or data or a photo or a video or some kind of audio. But if it's a video or an audio, you could be able to determine who the person's voice is, who they could be. You'd be able to identify them to an extent there. So it seems a bit contradictory in a way. What evidence is it? It has to be some form of evidence which does not actually identify the specific person, but it at least reinforces that they or someone was with Noah at the time. Hopefully I've made that clear enough. And if not, let's just do a visual demonstration right now, back there. Well, here we are. There's my hand. So we're going to break it down bit by bit. I know this is from a side profile, but this is the best I could possibly do at this moment in time, not to scale. But imagine that being the dirt road heading down towards the party house there, and then the barn being over there, and in between, further back, is that big light which shines. And then here, where my finger is, which is actually closer towards the fence area, coming there, around this portion, there was that tree, okay? And it's important because some have mentioned the tree as a spirit box session in regard to where Noah may have died or where it could reveal some evidence of some sort. All I would say is it's important because it's a form of concealment and camouflage, that if you go beyond past the tree area and where it's filled out with vegetation, it's a bit of a blind spot. So whilst yes, you've got the darkness and fading into that, further on, it adds as obstruction, making it harder for people to see. So if anyone is over there at the party house on the outside, porchway, looking this way, towards east, the camera, as Noah walks away, you're only going to see so much. For now, we're going to move the tree just so you can see ahead. I'm going to try and focus in further on, as long as I'm not clumsy, which is very likely. Wow. I don't get the chance much to use, the camera on here when it comes to doing stuff because you know, I'm doing other types of videos. But I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, possible. Now you might wonder, why is there an Asian person over there? That's only because that's the only female Lego figure that I've got. Okay, it's not supposed to be 100% accurate. But we just aim it over there, the party house, to a small scale. And if we just move some of the fencing, just so it's a little bit easier to see, I'll bring it back. You've got Noah Presgrove walking out of the party house. He's walking away. But where is he going? Supposedly heading east. Does he find a vehicle along the way, climbs into, and then goes to sleep, and the vehicle drives off out of sight towards the highway? Then the next time Noah realises he's woken up with movement along the highway, and then he falls out. Would that be the form of evidence to say that when Noah died, that he was in the vehicle, or a moving vehicle, which had people within it? Well, where would the evidence be of that, because there was no cameras on the highway? Would it be down to phone data, which people had in their pockets at the time of when driving? Would it be the black box, if that even exists on a vehicle like that? But if the vehicle was to be retrieved, as to the owner, who it belongs to, you should be able to find that out as well. So for Robyn to say, well, no one's talking, as if we don't know who actually is responsible, but we do have knowledge of evidence, doesn't quite link there, at least in my interpretation of it. So even before the vehicle scenario, right, of getting into one and then falling out, let's focus a little bit over there. At what point did an argument take place? Because we focus on the Saturday one, which ever since has been more so worded to past midnight, going into very, very early hours of Sunday morning. But there was a second argument with the same group of people, or set, or pair, Noah and Jack. Imagine if this was Logan Jernigan, and yes, I'm sure Logan probably wouldn't be dressed like this at the time, but just stay with it for now. If we just move her aside over there, imagine that is Noah Presgrove, and imagine that as Jack Newton. If they were having an argument, would that be considered a form of evidence to say that Noah wasn't alone? Because it'd be true. He's with people. He's around people. If Noah Presgrove, though, past the point, was walking away out a distance with other people and they couldn't see him, is there evidence to say that Noah Presgrove is with people now? I don't think so. Yeah, they're in the background and they can see him. He can't really see them. Maybe preoccupied with other things. And he's walking away. He's fading out of focus from those over there. Do any of those people back there follow up on Noah to check where he's at, where he's going? Supposedly not. But if Robyn is saying that there is evidence, you could interpret it that as Noah is walking away, it brings one of the guys, maybe, Jack Newton, yes, no, or another person, a known partygoer, a stranger, based off Brookbound Carter's suggestion at the time, to follow up on Noah behind, very close. And then what? That's when Noah dies. But how? An ambush? Or something else? Depends how you look at it, of course. But at least how Robyn is referring to it as is at the time of Noah's death, there is evidence that there was people around Noah, that Noah wasn't alone. Sometimes it's good to be alone, and other times it's very bad to be alone. In a situation like this, when you're in the dark, you're drunk, and going away from civilization, you're worse off. And when you're fading into darkness and out of sight, that doesn't help either. If we bring other people into the play, regardless of the names of them, and I'll add them in just a second, and we zoom out for a moment, got the vehicle there to the side, what I will do is add the obstructions back in or so. Take in mind that the dirt road is somewhat narrow. It's a little bit wonky, that fence. A dodgy one. We can't have wonky fences for this demonstration. As for the tree, I don't actually have a tree because, you know, I'm not going to own everything just on the spot. Can I use this like camouflage netting to recreate a tree, or is it going to just fall all over the place? Because based off my look, that could happen. Okay. An overgrown tree of some sort. That's the best I can do. Was any vehicles parked up down the side of the dirt road leading up to the party house? Vehicles were parked up down at the party house from what we've seen to an extent, such as 1:05 in the morning on Monday. You had the red Cherokee parked up, which I guess is Cadence. I think you might have had a white vehicle parked up and then another one. At least 3 vehicles that I saw parked up at the time. Well, yes, there might have been 40 party goers in total that, you know, come and go. At the time of Monday, 10, 15 people still at the party maybe. How many vehicles would there be then? If there's 10 to 15 people roughly at that party at that time, how many people would have vehicles of their own, each one, or some coming in pairs, some obviously getting a lift down, of course, like Noah Presgrove and Mikey Lair. Got to acknowledge that. How far down the dirt road leading up to the highway would vehicles be parked down there and further up? And that first house on the right, closest to the highway or rail tracks, there's that to acknowledge. I'll move it out the way just for now. But then again, there is one thing I did suggest as a possibility, and we'll just mention it now. It would be a problem, of course, because it should be noticeable to the people responsible in some way, indirectly speaking. Said about what if there was a person attending the party at the time. That could be a known individual, it could be a stranger, it could be someone that was trying to come on down with a little time that they had, and they're in the back of a vehicle. Can we focus in for a second? I think so. Just a little bit there, a bit to the right, left. Driving down the highway to get to the party house back there, you got the tree, blinding vision. At what time could something like this happen? Well, of course, when Noah is walking away to cool off, he may have gone so far down, close to the highway, he may have stopped nearby and was hanging out in the dark, who knows. The other people back there may have gone back into the house, maybe, and continued. Didn't think much of it at the time. If anyone then was coming on down, approaching and driving somewhat fast, could Noah Presgrove have been walking down or been at the side and walking out in front? And I know you can't quite see it from this angle, so we'll do it something like that. With focus, that'll do. If Noah Presgrove like wandering around in the middle of the dirt road like this, and a bit drunk as well, not quite there with it, not fast enough to react or move out the way. So you got the responsibility of the people driving on down at a steady speed, considering it is a dirt road and it comes to a bit of a dead end. You should be driving somewhat responsibly. Would there been enough stopping distance though if a vehicle had accidentally hit Noah Presgrove on site of the property? But of course, if anything like that did happen, then foul play would be involved because Noah did end up at the highway. So I'm just giving that scenario. You know, some people say, you know, a vehicle-based death involvement is possible and links to the injury sustained to Noah's body. But what about the location? That's just as important. If it's at a different location spot, then foul play must be involved for the body to be moved about. If it all happened at the highway and only the highway, less likely of foul play based on that. I'm just giving different scenarios and doing it in a visual sense because when I did it last time round, I only used Google Earth and you couldn't see as much on Shem. So the concept of the vehicle driving on down and hitting Noah without the driver actually falling out the vehicle, of course. How did they then switch in seats then? Interesting. And not going down there. You know, being hit by the vehicle and landing. But it would mean that the people drive on to the party and it just wouldn't seem exactly likely leaving a body there. Unless then they picked him up and then moved him on. But it just seems, I mean, it can happen, of course. It just seems a bit silly, far-fetched, to be honest with you, but it still needs to be acknowledged, right? Could be worse. We could be going deep into the alien one, but of course, gotta be careful what I say there because it might trigger some people, as it already has done. If no vehicle used in that moment, but there is still a death, then more likely a form of murder, possibly, because what other way would you die? Some people say there's a hybrid connection of Noah could have been isolated by himself down here, down the dirt road, and someone went after him after hearing about Noah walking away. Like I said, whacked him with whatever. I know that guy's got a plunger, but I don't have, you know, all the accessories on the spot. Causing some of the injuries, if not the death. And then what? A vehicle was then later involved. That would sound like a form of overkill. It would also sound like a form of desperation in making sure that the person's definitely dead, or a desperation in trying to cover it up in a different style of death. But either way, was the first hit and the first blow, the first impact actually meant or not? An accidental gun discharge can be by accident, but multiple gunshots seems less likely of an accident. A blow to someone's head somehow could be some kind of accident gone wrong, but multiple blows to the head or body could be likely less an accident and more done with intent. I'm just giving you some scenarios at least. Ooh, my wrist is aching a little bit. Where's the vehicle gone? So some people have said with time the possibility of being beaten, kicked, punched, face up, face down, whacked, like that. And then a vehicle being used, focus that in just a little bit, to drive over and crush and even go back over and over, but in a certain direction for it to not cause track marks on the body, I think. Because we don't remember hearing anything about tyre marks on the body, to my knowledge. And as for those shorts, the white ones, no mention of, you know, distinct marks. Don't remember that. But, you know, the act of knocking someone down, punching them, kicking them, and then driving over them really does sound overkill and obviously brutal and a little bit far-fetched, okay? Even if it was some kind of accident, anything down here, really, any type of death, honestly, if Noah had died on site of the property or really close to the highway, or even on a part of the highway but close to the property, anywhere where something like that occurs is still problematic, even if it's an accident, because Noah ended up a mile or so onwards, north of the highway. It would still mean at least foul play is involved there. So even if people don't agree, not everybody agrees that it may have happened on the site of the property or near to the site of the property. But I think we can agree that if it did, and if it was an accident, and if it was vehicular based only, there has to be a form of foul play, because you don't end up dead here and then magically transport to further down north of the highway, correct? Just at least that for thinking and putting it into perspective. But obviously the theme of all this is, whether it be at the party house or the highway, whichever one you want to interpret it as, there is evidence, which Robyn Smith says, showing Noah was with someone or some people. What could that mean? Are they responsible for the death? Do they know someone else who is? And at what time? What would that evidence suggest? The timestamp of it? Would it reinforce Caden's timeline? Would it reinforce Jack Newton's timeline? It could have all kinds of knock-on effects all over the place, but we just don't have clarity or an explanation or an update from Robyn Smith. Could it be elaborated now? Hopefully. All in all, hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting. Share your thoughts, comments down below. We'll see what happens next. We'll leave it there for now, short but sweet. Thanks for watching and people's patience. My name's WarLike Wrath. Good night. Goodbye for now.